Welcome back to Visionaries Sanctum. Today we have a very special episode, a mini documentary directed and produced by yours truly. So sit back and relax and enjoy the visual experience and the audio experience of The Sunroom with Chris White. All right, Chris, tell us about yourself.
My name is Chris. I sometimes go by Solo, Rasun, or Sunchild, and I'm from Dallas, Texas. I'm a multidisciplinary artist. I draw, I write, I play bass guitar, and I do a little bit of photography, but not on the serious side, but I want to. So I'm a creative overall. So Solo comes from a time in college where I started to just do things by myself. In the first half of college, my freshman and sophomore year, I did a lot of stuff that doesn't really align with what my interests are. I was in the clubs, in the lounges, at day parties, and I was never really comfortable. During COVID, getting some time to take a step back, I realized that was one of the reasons why I felt so isolated and why I was so uncomfortable and didn't feel like I was as rooted at my school as I could be. So when I went back to school the following spring, I made it a point to go do things by myself, like going to eat by myself, going out to events by myself. It really shifted my college experience, but also really helped me get a little bit closer to finding things that I truly enjoy, and then also connecting with people who share interests with me. Rasun is a new thing. Rasun is inspired by the wellness work that I'm pursuing. When I think of Rasun, I see Rasun as the highest form of myself. It is the healer, the advocate, the community health practitioner who uses their story and their struggles to support the community and provide them with the tools that they need to be able to navigate this life. Sunchild honestly just came to my heart. I've never even referred to myself as Sunchild, but it feels right. I have a really deep relationship with the sun. Also was blossomed during COVID, spending some time in my backyard, meditating in the sun. I just experienced some really big breakthroughs emotionally, spiritually, and mentally in that time. So ever since then, I've seen the sun as a reminder of my power, my connection, and protection and safety. So those are my three names. For the most part in the community, I go by Chris. But every now and then, if people know that I have other aliases, they might slide that in there.
Tell us about the significance of your sun spiral artist signature.
So that's also an ode to my relationship with the sun, as well as the platform that I'm building. I have a wellness platform that I'm building called the Sunroom, and it's actually inspired by my bedroom. I've had this tapestry since I was about 21 years old, and I've taken it to all of my apartments. Since then, I see my bedroom as the space where I do a majority of my healing work. I read in here, I strategize in here, I exercise in here, I do my yoga. I've even hosted wellness circles in my room. I've had some friends from the community come in and just experience the space, and every time I hear remarks of it being really calming in this space and the rest of my apartment, and that's the energy that I want to be able to exude in the sunroom. Get the direction you need to feel more comfortable and more empowered. So I use the sun in my artwork as to connect the work that I do in the wellness world as well as in my art.
How would you describe your art?
I would describe my art as somewhere between realism and expressionism. I grew up doing realism artwork. I've been a portrait artist since I was in about 4th grade. I found this book in the school library by, I think it's Andrew Loomis, called about how to draw heads, hands, and other body parts. And from 4th grade on to now, honestly, I really focused on drawing faces. But this year, I took on a different method to how I approach my artwork. I started to do a little bit more abstract work. So I was able to work some expressionism into my portraiture style. And I honestly feel like it's a lot more comfortable. It breaks me out of the perfectionism of realism and allows me to flow through artwork in a much more easeful way. And it's just really cool to see my style come out of every piece that I make now.
How does your background being from Texas influence your art?
Recently, I have started to explore Afro-Western aesthetics and characters. So I have quite a few pieces of cowboys to signify my relationship with Western culture. Being from Texas, I have family who owned land and may have had livestock and things. I've always felt like a natural connection to Western culture being from Texas. I come from a really big city, and I come from a predominantly black area in the city. So a majority of the work that I do is representing like black people. I know that the seed was planted for that while I was in Texas, but then I went off to school in DC. I'm a graduate of Howard University. I have a degree in biology. I got to study African American literature, even Brazilian hip hop and all kind of other things to just give me a better sense of how black people have contributed to the culture, the beauty of the work that we do, as well as the things that we've struggled through, persisted through. So in my work, I always pay homage to things that I learned, as well as the things that I see as beautiful. And I know black people are beautiful. So I hope that as people interact with my work, they're able to recognize how much I value our culture.
Beautiful. Tell us what brought you here to Chicago.
In this summer 2021, I got the opportunity to have an internship here in Chicago. I was working at Northwestern Memorial Hospital. I loved the whole experience. I networked my butt off. I was featured on a medical magazine that summer. I was invited to be a panelist on an equity grant rounds at the hospital. Also just really enjoyed the culture. Like I said, I really value black culture. So to be in a city that has played such a huge role in the development of black culture, I felt like this would be another beautiful place for me to live in. When I was here, I actually lived off of 35th and King. So I got a really good taste of Chicago. The people were really friendly. So I was like, this would be perfect for me to come back to. So when it was time for me to look for jobs coming out of my senior year, I only applied to places in Chicago. I wanted to work at the Shirley Ryan Ability Lab because I had aspirations to being a physical medicine and rehab doctor, a physiatrist, and it's the #1 physical therapy hospital in the United States. And also, as a person with a spinal cord injury, I felt like that'd be the perfect place for me to be to receive care. So I was trying to kill all the birds with one stone, by moving here and being in proximity. And it did just that for me. It has connected me to some beautiful spaces, especially within the holistic health and wellness world, and really inspired me to continue to dig into the work that I do. So yeah, Chicago has had a profound impact. And I think that's just the tip of the iceberg. I've seen so much since I've been here. I'm a part of an amazing community that does an amazing work. And I feel really deeply rooted in the city.
How has your personal evolution here in Chicago influenced the evolution of your art?
One thing that changed from the time that I moved here to where I am now are my career aspirations, actually. So I no longer have intentions of pursuing the MD doctor route. I still want to work within health and wellness, but I want to be a lot closer to the community. So I got involved with restorative justice work, and I've done some holistic health and wellness advocacy work in the community. And I feel like being able to take a route that feels more aligned with my values has made me just dig a little bit deeper into who I am. It honestly inspired me to get back into drawing. I took some time away from drawing on paper for a couple years since 2020. Last November, I started back drawing on paper because I have been showcasing my artwork in galleries. I had a lot of digital work, but there's something about digital work that it's a little bit more challenging for me to conceptualize the value of. So I think it was really important for me to take that step back into traditional artwork. And the support that I've received in these different spaces that I've been has definitely played a huge role in my continued motivation to draw and to pursue being an artist. Because if you talk to me back in my junior year of college, I was dead set on being a doctor, and I hadn't really conceptualized how I would be able to be an artist still and make space for being an artist. So I'm so grateful that I found some spaces here that value what I have to offer, as well as encourage me to continue to dig deeper into the things that mean the most to me.
Guide us through your artistic process from beginning all the way up to manifested piece.
I'm inspired by just about everything. I believe that I can extract a message from just about anything. I see a lot of the natural world is really poetic. I'm a really visual person, so as I'm moving through the city, I see things and I'm collecting ideas. I watch a lot of media about art and I listen to a lot of music. I think music honestly inspires a majority of the work that I do. I listen to music while I draw, so a lot of my pieces have music connected to it, and that's one thing that I've been actively fleshing out, how to merge these different mediums together to create a more comprehensive experience. when it comes to the drawing process, lately I've been focused on volume. There's some artists in the city who are able to produce like amazing work, and they produce it at really high volumes, and it's really inspired me to step out of the zone of trying to make really elaborate pieces, but instead like approaching the work as just an opportunity to get to know myself. So for the most part, a majority of my drawings take somewhere between like 2 to 4 hours. I might work on them between like 1 to 2 days. I let them be how they are. I don't have any traditional training, so my whole process is intuitive. I'm just taking the things that I've learned over my like lifespan while drawing on paper as a kid, but also as a digital artist, and applying it to like how I approach drawing now. It's still kind of challenging, but I found myself being able to pull through a lot more expressive elements into my work because of how fluid my approach is and how intuitive my approach is. I have 3 main buckets right now that I'm pouring into: Afrofuturism, Afro-Western, and ode to Mama Africa. So like more African traditional works, like textile works, even more spiritual imagery. So I pour into those buckets, and when I feel called to draw, which for me is generally like the nighttime. I'm a night owl. I've had a time where I started drawing at 1 a.m., finished it at like 3 a.m. So my bursts of energies kind of like come and go. But one thing that I'm working on over the next couple months is getting into a more consistent process so that I can continue to like create the volume that I want to see and build out my portfolio, so that in the coming years, when it's time for me to showcase work, I always have an abundance of work to offer.
Would you say that's your main number one focus as an artist right now, is building a substantial body of work?
Yeah, I'm building a body of work. That was my goal at the start of the year. At the start of January, I was like, this year I want to focus on volume. And I also want to get to know where I am and who I am on paper. And since then, I've completed so many pieces on paper that I'm starting to see the threads, the connections between the pieces. And I'm starting to see what my style is. And that's been really encouraging, because it's those kind of things that make your work stand out. And it's something that I've always like wanted to see for myself, especially coming from a realism background where I'm really just looking at the photo and doing my best to draw it how it looks. Now I'm able to incorporate more personality and more expression into my work. I think towards the end of this year, I'll start doing a couple slow pieces as well. I want to get back into the habit of allowing things to breathe and, taking time with the work, while also still having the work that I could do really quickly, so that I can continue to keep the energy flowing.
While you've been on this journey to build this portfolio, what kind of spaces has this journey led you into?
So it's got me looking at the Black galleries in Chicago. Spent some time at Gallery Geechar and at the DuSable Museum. And while I'm in those spaces, I'm starting to visualize myself in those spaces. The more I get to see what my style is, just get a better sense of what makes art impactful, the more motivated that I feel the pursuit of being able to showcase my work in those kind of spaces with that kind of like notoriety. But I'm also really focused on creating work that is accessible to the community. And this is where like the fast art and the slow art dynamic starts to come in. Because a lot of artists, they'll work on a piece for a month or so, and then they'll put it on the market for about like $2,000, $1,400. And the majority of people in the communities that I exist in are not able to afford those things. And I believe that everybody should have the access to beautiful works that offer like personality to their space. I'm taking it as my responsibility to make sure that I create work that is accessible to the community. I saw this post somewhere on social media before saying that we need interesting art in our homes. It like stimulates our creativity. It makes us look at things differently. So I just want to make sure that we are all able to benefit from the energy of having art in your space.
What kind of spaces are you in currently where your art is accessible? I see you've been doing some events, some live drawings, things like that.
This year, I've showed work in Contextos. It's a really dope collective that is focused on supporting the community and sharing their story. I've showed some work in the Pilsen Arts and Community House. I had actually two of the pieces that's over here on the wall. They were like, I took them right off my wall and put them in the gallery, and that was a beautiful experience. It was a exhibit curated by community members, so just an example of like people in the community creating spaces for me to do things that I love, and I really appreciate that. I've shown work at Healthy Hood, so I got to vend at Healthy Hood a couple times. I set up kind of like a gallery table where I got to show the community my artwork, which was really important for me because one thing that I noticed last year is that a lot of people in the community did not see me as an artist. So I was like, I need to make sure by the end of this year that people see me as an artist. So being able to set up my table like that, show my work, and even sell work. One of my biggest sales this year was at Healthy Hood. Has been really expansive for me. I feel like it generates a lot of attention, but also opportunities coming from people in the community being able to see that I'm showing my work. That's how I got a lot of my live drawing gigs.
Since you're known as the wellness guy with Riz, the wellness Rizzler, what is wellness to you and why is it important?
Wellness to me is about capacity. That's the first thing that comes to mind for me. The things that we do throughout our day contribute to our overall capacity to show up for ourselves. And the framework that I use is the 8 dimensions of wellness. So that includes every aspect of wellness, from physical wellness to spiritual wellness to occupational wellness, financial, social, all of those things. And I see them all contributing to our ability to have the capacity to live an empowered, wholesome, and healthy life. So that is one thing that whenever I have the opportunity to, I make sure that I share with the community because it served me greatly. I have a spinal cord injury. It happened 12 years ago from a gunshot wound. And I've had to learn how to take care of myself in a way that a lot of people our age don't usually have to until something happens. So I want us to get in the mindset now of like different ways to take care of ourselves and how important it is to have these things in alignment for us to show up in our as our best self.
With the significance of wellness in your personal life and in your artistic practice, how has that transformed into you building the Sunroom?
So the original name was Touch the Sun, and that came down as like a vision when I was in like my senior year, and it was affirmed by my best friend. She was like, I hear you, and that's it. Whatever you're working on right now, that's the thing. Keep pouring into that. So I developed a couple pillars for the Sunroom. They are creativity, advocacy, wellness, and scholarship. I feel like so long as I'm pouring into those 4 buckets, I'm able to do really supportive work. I see all of them as advocacy work and wellness work. Each of those 4 pillars have had like a profound role in my sense of like my understanding of myself, my understanding of the world, and how to take care of myself. Advocacy came through like me approaching disability rights advocacy, trying to figure out ways to better support students at my university who have disabilities and chronic impairments. And that's not just mobility impairments. That's, to me, includes ADHD, anxiety, depression, things that a lot of students, especially at a HBCU, do experience and have a hard time coping with while being on campus. So it taught me to seek solutions for how to live with my circumstances and live wholly and still be really successful. Wellness, that framework came through some research that I was doing during quarantine, where I came across the 8 dimensions of wellness. Creativity, I've been an artist, and I know that it plays a huge role in being able to create creative solutions for how to overcome the obstacles that I've experienced. And scholarship taught me about what a spinal cord injury is. I read a lot of Google Scholar papers, and I learned a lot about where Western medicine is and what the limitations are. So it encouraged me to seek like understandings of like more traditional medicine practices and learn about herbalism, learn about things like acupuncture, somatic healing, Reiki. And I find that as marginalized people, those like wellness strategies can be significantly more supportive for long-term ailments like navigating long-term stress or like hypertension, things like chronic pain. Like using the skills that I was building in school, I was able to branch out and really like start to study life and myself. And it has contributed greatly to this vision that I have for the Sunroom and the things that I want to do in the future. So far, I run wellness circles and I've done some public speaking, talking about the holistic health and wellness model. And moving forward, I want to continue to create space for people to come together and learn the tools that they need to be able to feel the most empowered in their journeys wherever they are, so that we can show up as our best self and take care of one another.
You've referred to yourself as a conduit and a vessel. How is the divine using you as a vessel through art and wellness?
A lot of what I've learned about wellness has been through my personal experience navigating chronic pain. I will say it's one of the most difficult aspects of my experience. Like I said, I do have a spinal cord injury. I was paralyzed from waist down, and I've regained a lot of mobility, and I still got some things to work on. But the one thing that has been the most troublesome has been experiencing pain on a daily basis, nerve pain. So in me trying to figure out how to better cope with my pain, I've come across a lot of tools that are applicable across the board for navigating chronic stress, chronic pain, depression, anxiety, overwhelm, and all of these things. So now that I have this insight that I use personally for myself, I've taken it as my responsibility to share with the community, because I started to see the overlap between things like chronic pain and stress, and chronic pain and ADHD, chronic pain and anxiety. And like I said, I know a lot of marginalized groups in the United States experience these things at a disproportionate rate. So having people to speak to their experience, not only from a place of like, I know what the problem is, but here are also possible solutions, takes us out of a place of like hopelessness and into a place of empowerment, where people can start taking their wellness into their own hands. They don't have to depend on pills. They don't have to wait for doctor's appointments that may be like 10 minutes long, and the doctor may not even hear you, or be able to provide solutions that are like culturally competent and take into consideration things like social determinants of health. You can be your own wellness practitioner. So I believe that God uses me to the struggles that I've experienced, and as well as my like will to figure out how to overcome them, to uplift the community through education and through being an example of experiencing really difficult things and still showing up in a way that is empowered, joyful, and inspired and motivated.
All right, Chris, thank you so much for being the first Visionary Sanctum podcast guest, and thank you for all that you've done, all the great work that you've done, and all the incredible work we know that you have coming. Thank you for sharing the space, your Visionary Sanctum. Thank you for sharing the time. I'm excited to see the beautiful things that God will do through you as a conduit and a vessel working within wellness and art, and all the incredible, beautiful gems that you will continue to pour in the community. For those who want to stay up to date with Chris, in the description we'll have his social media so you can check that out. And make sure you're following us on everything: Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcast, Instagram, YouTube. It's all Visionary Sanctum. And stay tuned for next time. Bye.